Hello everyone and welcome back to the DLR Realistic Division on Thursday evenings. I am Ghost, your commentator for this evening, and let's hope for a great evening of racing here in Portugal. We've got Jurgen heading out in the Williams to start off the session, but there is an outside chance today that Red Bull could wrap up the Constructors' Championship today. They would need a 1-2 and a few DNFs to go their way, but they could wrap up the Constructors with 4 rounds to go. And in a 12-round championship, I mean, that is pretty dominant. For a constructor. Melvin and Heiner have been a great pairing, but Melvin has just been on a different level in that Red Bull this season. He's on 5 wins in a row. It's 6 wins from the last 7 races. Well, there have been 7 races and he's won 6 of them this season. He's hoping to make it 6 in a row today. We've also had exactly the same podium 2 races in a row. That is Melvin, then TNK in the Mercedes, then Mr. Chris in the Alpine. And also Heiner in P4, both of those times too. So the same top 4 twice in a row at the moment. So hoping for some variety today here in Portimao. We've got Jurgen in the Williams setting off on his first run. Through turn 3 and 4 he goes. A little bit wide on the exit perhaps, but just about got it under control and kept it on the track. Brake at the 100-meter board for turn number 5, I believe, and then down through turn 6, then 7, and then this horrible turn 9, and he's invalidated at, turn 8, invalidated at turn 7, and that is no go for Jurgen on his first run. Praying for non-Melvin W, says Louis. I think you're not the only one. This man's won 5 races in a row, 6 of the 7 races we've done this season. He's just unstoppable in that Red Bull, and I think fittingly dons the Max Verstappen helmet. But who else is on a lap? I think there's an Alfa Romeo Hotline Blang on a lap, possibly, coming through sector 3 now. 4th gear on the exit, seems like he's on a lap. There's a 5th-place grid penalty for flop for a collision with TNK. Don't know how that will go down, but Hellfire sets the initial pace, but immediately beaten by Hotline Blang, who does a 1:18.8. Clearly not a representative lap from Hellfire there, as he's been right up there in that AlphaTauri these last few rounds. Just looking at the standings. Yeah, he's been P5, has he? Hang on. Hellfire. Oh no, he wasn't here last round, but in Monaco, but in Mexico he had a decent race. Could have been better, but USA a very strong 4th. Melvin goes pole with a 16.6, and that's much more like the times we're expecting today. Frisk Fruit 6.5 tenths down. Louis says he thought that Melvin had fumbled it in Monaco, but just got past TNK and rolled from there. Yeah, I did have a quick look at the race results, but I didn't really see what happened, so I will take your word for it there, Louis. But that does not surprise me in the slightest. SC says, watch me cook after 7 laps of practice and being on the game for 2 hours the last month. Well, I'm sure you'll be fine. And Melvin, thank you very much. I do appreciate the compliments. We've got Frisk Fruit stopping on track to let people through. Bartya goes P3 with that initial run. Hugo P4. Who else is on a lap? I don't see who that was. I think that was Ricardo going to P6. We've got Steph in the other Ferrari. Mr. Chris on a lap as well in the Alpine. How close can he get to Melvin's time? We're about to find out as he opens the DRS over the line. It's a 16.9. He's 2.5 tenths down on the runaway championship leader. What about Flop in the Haas, Steph in the Ferrari as well, coming through the last couple of corners. Heine into the pits, did not get a lap done, it seems, at this point. And TNK on an outlap as well, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. Flop, P12 with the first run. Steph up to P3, beats the McLaren of Frisfru and his teammate. So that's a good showing from him at this stage. TNK in the Mercedes, the one to watch. See how close he can get to Melvin. It's been 2 P2s in a row for him. Might even have been 3 P2s in a row for him, actually, in the last 3 races. So let's see if he can take that extra step and win a race today. The only non-race winner, the only race winner not named Melvin this season has been Mr. Chris in the Alpine, won in Jeddah. The one race I didn't commentate this season, other than last week, which is a bit of a shame. It sounded like absolute mayhem, but yeah, here comes TNK down through the last couple of corners now. A lovely white, black and white helmet on that Mercedes driver. Give that a 7.5, 8. It's pretty tasteful colour scheme there, and pattern as TNK starts his first flying lap of the session down towards turn 1. Very committed through there, very nice on the exit as well, and through turn 3 and now 4 goes the Mercedes driver. It's so far on the throttle through there. Usually you have to lift a lot more than that to get the car through. Very, very committed from the Portuguese driver. As he goes through turn 5, a little bit of a snap on the exit. Nothing to be too concerned about. Turn 6, then 7, down to 8. Doesn't invalidate like Hotline Blang did earlier through turn 7. Very nicely on the power as well from TNK. This is looking like a pretty decent lap from the Mercedes driver. Down to the end of sector 2 he comes. Last corner of that middle sector. Looks like he's traversed that pretty well as well. This is a very neat and tidy lap from the Mercedes driver. Down through the last couple corners. Can he turn P2 into P1 today? Well, we're about to find out if he can turn it into P1 for now. Round the last corner he goes. It's looked like a pretty tidy lap from TNK. We're about to see what it is across the line though. 14, 15, 16, just about P2 for TNK. 1.5 tenths down on the championship leader. And we've got our top 3 from the last 2 races in exact order. 1, 2 and 3 once again in this quali session at the moment. MCL also on a lap in the Alpine. And Heine goes to P4 with his first run. The Red Bull second driver into those top 4 positions, which is where he needs to be. But only the last of them, so he won't be too happy with that, won't be too pleased. MCL ran the last couple of corners, but through sector 2, invalidates at turn 7. So easy to do that there. As SC comes through as well in the Aston Martin, see what he can do. The former Red Bull driver from last season. He was telling us to watch him cook in the chat. We'll see what he can serve up for us as he comes through the middle sector now. It's pretty neat and tidy through there, but I know it was pretty uncommitted through turn 7. But we've seen a lot of people invalidate there, so it's understandable. And now around the last couple of corners for SE, that's very wide in the penultimate corner. That'll cost him some time. But down flat out to the line now for the Aston Martin driver. See where he can put himself with this initial run. It's going to be at 119.4. He's a long way down in P15 in the Aston as it stands. Bundy in the Haas starting his first lap of the session as well. Mr. Chris also on his second lap of this quali session. And he's a 10.5 up in sector 1, looking to challenge Melvin for that pole position. And looks like Melvin's just started a lap on the mini-map as well. So we'll keep an eye on him as he goes through too. TNK currently in the pits, so he's not going to be going again yet. He might be going for 2 runs, I wonder. The weather is often pretty unpredictable around this circuit, so I wonder if that's going to come into play here. But Mr. Chris through sector 2, 3/10 up in the middle sector. He cooked the grass, says Linda in the chat. Well, you're probably not wrong, I'll have to say, and I reckon Hellfire has got to beat him, so he'll be teetering on the edge of last place as it stands. SC. Mr. Christo coming to the line. Has he nailed the final sector enough to take provisional pole? Yes, he has, by 1/10 of a second from the championship leader, but Melvin's 2/10 up in the middle sector, and it's just repeat, rinse and repeat in terms of how things seem to be going this championship. Melvin just no one just has an answer to this man in the Red Bull. I think if you replaced him with SC, we'd have a great championship on our hands. But Melvin goes 2.5 tenths faster than his previous effort. A 16.4 is the new target for pole position, and Mr. Chris will be rolling his eyes in that Alpine, I'm sure. Hellfire coming through turn 1 now in the AlphaTauri, but he's not using any ERS. I wonder if that's an error, a manual error on his part, if he's not going for a proper lap here. Yeah, still no ERS usage from the Japanese driver, so surprising there. Gyro coming through as well, the other AlphaTauri. MF Boom on a lap. What about Frisk Fruit? What's he doing in the McLaren? He's 1/10 up in Sector 1. Which would be enough to get him into P5, the best of the rest position for this season. It seems to be the top 4 than everyone else at the moment. But Frisk Fruit in P6 at the moment, wants to improve that through Sector 2, but invalidates on the exit of the last corner in that middle sector, and he's going to have to try again. Jürgen in the Williams, who's been showing some fantastic form, it has to be said. His teammate got promoted to Mercedes, but has not been impressing since then. And Jürgen could add some pressure to his former teammate by beating him in this quali session. That was very, very close to the limit out the penultimate corner, through the final corner, but he's into the pits, is the Williams driver. So no improvement for him on this run. What about MF Boom in the McLaren? Also coming through the last couple of corners. Hugs the inside line of the final corner and down towards the line. No, down towards the pit lane, actually, as Gyro improves to P11 in the meantime. Steph on a lap. TNK, though, on a lap as well, but not improving in the first sector. But it's this middle sector where you can gain so much time. SC says he's cooking. Well, he's cooking something. TNK, 2.5 tenths up in the middle sector. Brilliant Sector 2 from the Portuguese driver. Can he bring it together in the final sector? We're about to find out as he comes around the last couple of corners, but invalidates on the exit of the penultimate corner. And that is going to be his attempt done for this time. He's going to have to come back into the pits. Strap on a new set of tyres. Melvin says he got held up a bit in Sector 3 and locked up, and still goes pole by nearly 2 tenths. So I think that tells you all you need to know about how this championship is going this season. Steph not on an improvement at the moment. As Gyro in the AlphaTauri, surely not an improvement. He got no ERS left. What about Bumdy in the Haas? Hasn't set a lap yet. Hopefully he can get himself on the board with this one. MCL, also the other driver, yet to get himself on those standings. As Bumdy now comes through the final sector. Got to avoid invalidating on that penultimate corner. Seems to be catching a lot of drivers out in this session. Can the Haas driver keep it on the track here? Yes, he can. Well on the track, in fact. And round the final corner he goes. And it's going to be a decent lap from the Haas driver, I think. A 1:18.9. Beats his teammate, and that's all you can really ask for in a realistic championship. And Beats him by half a second, in fact, so a decent effort there from Bumdy in the Haas. MCL on an outlap as well. A lot of people on outlaps right now, Mr. Chris included. He's in P2 right now, only 1.5 tenths or so off of Melvin, but it sounds like Melvin has a lot more to give to this quali session based on his comment in the chat just now. Mr. Chris and that Aston Martin, I think that was SC. I think just a bit of miscommunication between the two of them there, as they tried to let each other through. Hugo on a lap in the Mercedes. I'm rooting for this man. He got promoted from Williams. Ever since he's been in the Mercedes, it feels like he's been performing worse than in the Williams. So got some work to do, has Hugo. Through Sector 1 now he goes. It could also be that he's just now being compared to TNK, who is clearly one of the best drivers on the grid, in that top cohort of drivers. Your Verstappens, your Hamiltons, your Alonsos of real-life racing. But Hugo coming through the middle sector now in the Mercedes. Can he put something together? Yes, he can. He's 3 tenths up in the middle sector. So he's going to be looking for that best of the rest position, which would be a good place to put himself in this session. He's coming around the final couple of corners now. I wonder if Hellfire's actually going to try for his last lap. He's on an outlap right now, but would be good to see him actually give it a go, because I don't think he's been pushing particularly hard so far. Across the line comes Hugo, and it is P5, 6 tenths improvement. That is much, much better from Hugo, and that's great to see him putting in a great effort in this quali session. Mr. Chris on a lap, half a tenth up in Sector 1. It's not enough for pole, though. He needs a lot more than that. To snatch pole from Melvin, who's just started his lap now as the championship leader. What can Mr. Chris do in the middle sector? He's coming through towards the end of that sector right now. We've got outlaps for TNK and Heino as well, so we've got to keep an eye on them. Frisk Fruit also on a lap in the McLaren. He's in the middle sector right now. Mr. Chris again improving, but not by enough. It's only half a tenth in Sector 2. He's going to need a heck of a lot of improvement in these last couple corners to unseat the current pole man. Using all of the track on the exit of the penultimate corner, and down towards the line comes Mr. Chris. What's it going to be for the Alpine driver? Can he challenge Melvin? Not quite. Half a tenth off at this point. Melvin is not improving though, but we know he got held up in the final sector on his previous effort, and he is improving by half a tenth in Sector 2. He's gained a tenth and a half in that sector alone on his previous best, but TNK is improving as well by over half a tenth in the first sector. Can he put something special together here? What about Heiner? He's in the middle sector now as well. We're not going to see how much he's improving, but here comes the championship leader. This is going to be the lap to beat. To the line he goes, and it's going to be a 16.2. That's the target for TNK. He's going to see that flash up on the screen as well. I don't know if it's going to motivate him or have the opposite effect, but round the middle sector he goes now. Is he improving? Yes, by 2.5 tenths, but he needs a lot more than that. It would be enough or close to being enough if Melvin hadn't improved just now. Heiner also on a lap, see what he can do. What about TNK though? We've got the Ferrari ahead of him on a lap as well. Not sure which one, but TNK through the final corner and to the line is just about running out of VRS as he gets to the line, but that happens all the time in Portugal. It's enough for P2 for TNK, but it's not enough to beat Melvin. Steph and Barcia P8 and 9. Hugo has gotten that best of the rest title as the two McLarens claim 6 and 7. Hellfire did finally give an actual lap a go, and he's P11 with that effort. SC down in 17th. MCL did not manage to put a lap in at all, unfortunately for him. But it is Melvin on pole position once again in this race, with TNK and Mr. Chris P2 and 3 and Heiner P4, and it's the same top 4 in the same order as the race results of the last 2 races. So could we have a three-peat of that top 4, I wonder? Louis in the chat saying this league has a top 4 and then a 0.5 second gap, but Hugo has consistently been at that 5th position. Yeah, I think his first race for Mercedes did not go well, so I might have missed. I know I missed Monaco. I'm not sure how well he did there. I can't remember now, but yeah, it seems like he's back into that P5 spot, and he deserves to be like hell, says Reese in the chat. But it is Melvin on pole position for Red Bull once again. Flop's got a 5-place grid penalty as well down in P13 now, just noticed, or remembered I should say. TNK in P2 again, Mr. Chris P3 as well, and Heiner will join him on the second row, but a long way back. TNK and Mr. Chris very, very close together there. Hugo in P5, best of the rest, with Friss Fruit in 6th, and MF Boom, Steph, Bartja and Jürgen make up the rest of the top 10, with Hellfire down in P11, Hotline Blank P12, Flop 13th, but who will drop to 18th, with Gyro, Ricardo, Bumdy and SC the last to set laps, and MCL unable to get a time on the board, but will start P17 thanks to Flop's grid penalty. So as we wait for everyone to get their strategies sorted, looks like it's pretty dry here in the Algarve, which is unusual for this circuit. Usually see a bit of rain here, and we still may well do, but for the moment, blue skies and not a cloud in sight in this beautiful part of Portugal. TNK at his home race will have wanted to get pole, but couldn't quite manage it. Rain expected near the end, says Louis, and that is more like the Portuguese Grand Prix that I know. So that could spice things up a little bit. We shall see. But here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we're underway for the Portuguese Grand Prix in DLR Realistic. A good start from Jürgen at the back, but Melvin gets away well, and he is P1 through turn 1. Looks like Hugo and Heiner are side by side through the first couple corners. Hugo trying to make the move, can't quite do it. Severe collision at the back between Flop and SC, but Hugo back down the inside of the Red Bull driver and up to P4. Brilliant move from the Mercedes, and he's looking to make a move on the Alpine as well. Nearly 3 wide as Heiner looks for a way through, but Hugo on those soft tyres, making them work to good effect. Let's have a look at the tyres. Hugo, one of the only ones on the softs, and he's still trying to go down the inside of this Red Bull, but Heiner keeps his foot in, and that's a great retaking of the position from the Greek Red Bull driver. Top 4 on mediums, Hugo starting on the softs, Frissfruit and Hellfire on hards, with Bumdy, SC and MF Boom all starting on softs, but those bottom 4, a fair bit back, must have been caught up in some collisions, and I think Hellfire's got damage. He's just gone very wide on the minimap as well. Hotline Blang and Jürgen going wheel to wheel through the final sector of the racetrack at the moment. Hotline Blang could be pushed wide here if Jürgen gets some understeer, but no, good racing between the three of them, and Bartja trying to get his nose in as well. Down the inside of both of them goes the Ferrari. What a move from Bartja. Jürgen's into the pits though, so not as good as it could have been, but Hotline Blang getting absolutely ransacked here as Bumdy tries to go down the inside, but he comes back at him, but brakes too late and plows into the Ferrari. Bumdy switches both of them back, and Bartja is not going to be happy about that one. Hotline Blang absolutely sending him into the gravel there. Nothing he could do about that. MF Boom in the chat saying he's gotten taken out and he's sick of this stuff. That's so unfortunate. I do feel for you, mate. But Hotline Blang now putting pressure on MCL, who's had an absolute whopper of a start, up 7 positions for the Alpine driver in the first couple of laps of this race. Now into the points already. Brilliant stuff from him. As the top three still together in DRS range of each other, but Mr. Chris nearly falling out in this final sector as it stands. Heine trying to get in DRS range of the Alpine in the meantime to try and get away from this charging Mercedes of Hugo on the soft tyres. He can't quite do it. Mr. Chris is just about in range, but DRS won't be enabled until this next lap. So they'll have to try and get in the DRS down towards turn 5 or stay in the DRS, and Mr. Chris hasn't done that. He doesn't have the straight line speed, it seems, of those top two, and through this first sector they go, and no DRS for Mr. Chris, so it's all about Melvin and TNK for the lead of this race at the moment, as Mr. Chris seems to be absolutely nowhere for race pace at this early stage. Compared to these top two. Heine trying to get in range, Hugo as well, putting the pressure on that Red Bull. Fristfru already dropping a long way back, but has started on the hards, remember, so he'll have a better second stint, but I still think he's quite a way off the top 4 in terms of pace. Hugo he might be able to get if the Mercedes driver's gone on the wrong strategy, which he could well have done. Then he could be in danger of losing some positions later on in this race. Ricardo into the pits. As well as MF Boom, Jürgen, Hellfire and Flop, all of those drivers pitting at this early stage. SC has stayed out, interestingly, so I think probably has no damage from whatever collision did happen. Someone's round in the first sector. I believe that was Hellfire who went round. He's not having a good time here in Portugal. Not one of his favoured tracks, it seems, as TNK has the DRS crucially down towards turn 1. But for how long has Melvin really stretched that gap in that third lap? And TNK's really going to have to push hard to stay with that Red Bull, but he's going to eat up his tyres in the process. Mr. Chris now under pressure from the other Red Bull of Heine for P3, and TNK's already fallen out that DRS range, and I think we could have a bit more Melvin domination today, it seems. Heine right behind this Alpine for now, wanting to get back on the podium. He started this season with 5 podiums in a row, but the last 2 races he has been P4, which, it's not too bad, but off the podium he won't be too pleased about. SC is round again by the looks of it, and I think Bumdy lost a ton of positions as well there. I'm not sure what happened to the Haas driver, but that does promote MCL to P9 and Hotline Blang into the top 10 after nearly taking out the Ferrari of Bartia, who's back up to P8 now. Fristfru under pressure from Steph. Hellfire retires in the pit lane, not having a good time. Probably has rear wing damage, if I had to guess. Here go the McLaren and the Ferrari down towards the final corner. Can Steph make a move here? He's right behind the McLaren. Gets a lot more grip on those mediums still at this early stage. He's going to use the DRS, and it's going to be a very simple pass for Steph up to P6. That's good stuff from him, but Fristfru, of course, on a different strategy, and he'll come alive in the second stint of this race. At least that's what he'll be hoping. As they go through Sector 1, can Fristfru mount a return challenge with the DRS down towards turn 5? It's going to be tough. He's not close enough, I don't think, unless he wants to send one to the inside, but he doesn't, and chooses to stay behind. Very sensible from the McLaren driver. And he is down to P7. TNK desperately trying to stay within that 1 second range. Mr. Chris has really lost out to those top 2. Just doesn't have the race pace, it seems, at this track compared to Melvin and TNK. But I think Melvin just has that edge over the Mercedes driver. It's 1.2 seconds now, and I can't see TNK getting back into that range before the detection point, which is coming up after this corner, especially if he goes wide like that. Of the apex, and there's the detection point, 1.3 seconds, and Melvin is clear and away. Heine in P4, with Hugo just behind them still on those soft tyres in P5. Heine not able to make a move on Mr. Chris down towards turn 1. Still with the DRS, he's going to have to wait for a better opportunity. We've also got Fristfru staying on the back of Steph. He's done a great job, has Fristfru, to stick with him. What was that in the chat? Let me check. Reese says, I outbroke myself and hit the Williams in front, got sandwiched between Flop and MF Boom, and I hit MF Boom, not deliberately. Not entirely sure who Reese is. Maybe Hellfire? Or Flop? I'm not sure. But either way, seems they've been involved in an incident which is very unfortunate. But these things happen in racing. I think it's probably Hellfire. Yeah, Hellfire, because he's out. So, unlucky Hellfire. I'm sure you'll be back next week. Well, not next week, but in a couple of weeks' time to get back to form as Jürgen gets past SC for P13 in the meantime. Is there damage to Aston Martin? No visible damage, but I think maybe just slow. He did say he's had no practice, so it can be excused on a tough track like this. Heine still trying to put Mr. Chris under pressure, looking to the inside. TNK with a 3-second time penalty. That's the first of the evening, and then SC gets one immediately after. But here comes Heine now to the inside of Mr. Chris. Can't quite get it done. But I think we'll see many more of those time penalties for track limits over the course of this Grand Prix. Very, very easy to get around this track. And Hugo has now lost the DRS range. I think those softs are starting to leave from underneath his car. And he's going to have to switch over to a different tyre in a few laps' time. And no, Heine's hit the back of Mr. Chris. He's hit him, and I think I saw a bit of Red Bull debris there. And is there no end plate? Yes, no. Absolutely damage to Heine. It's all his own fault. It has to be said. It just outbraked himself, went straight into the back of the Alpine, and that is race ruined for Heine unless a safety car comes to his rescue. He's going to have to come into the pits and get that repaired, but it's now 3 races in a row where it hasn't gone Heine's way, and it looks like he's going to be off the podium again unless he gets some very good luck for the rest of this Grand Prix. Into the pits he goes much earlier than planned. I think he's going to have to transition to a 2-stop here in that Red Bull. He's going to drop all the way down from that pit stop. That is such a shame, but I think he's only got himself to blame. SC getting himself another time penalty further back for track limits, as now that promotes Hugo into P4, not far behind Mr. Chris, but still not in that crucial 1 second range as it stands. TNK has gone down to 1.9 seconds. I think that track limits penalty is just purely from trying to catch Melvin, but just doesn't have the car to do it. I don't think. As Melvin in that Red Bull, an unstoppable force this season so far. Hotline Blang going wheel to wheel with Gyro in the meantime on the exit of turn 5. This is for P9 in the race. Will be a net P10 because Heine has already pitted and he's gone onto the soft, so he has transitioned to the 2-stop like expected. But here they go through the middle sector. Hotline Blang not able to make a move, but he sees the flashing red light on the back of that AlphaTauri. He knows Gyro's vulnerable, but the problem that he's facing is that Gyro has the DRS from MCL just ahead of them, as Heine makes a pretty simple move on Bumdy, who is an AI. So that explains why he made that move in such an unconventional place on the track. Meanwhile, I think we've got to mention Frisk Fruit here, still in the DRS range of Steph. He has done a fantastic job to stay with the Ferrari and is looking like a lock-on for P5 as long as he can execute this strategy the way he should. Because he's going to be on the better tyres in the second stint. He's sticking with the Ferrari in this first stint, and he's doing a great job. As it stands. We've got someone around, that's SC, I believe, in the Aston Martin. Yes, it is, at the penultimate corner. And, well, we're certainly watching him cook something. I'm not quite sure it's what he wanted us to watch him cook, but into the pits he comes. As Bumdy getting past due to being AI by another driver. Frisk Fruit still staying with that Ferrari. Where is Heine? He's 12 seconds back nearly on Hotline Blang. He has, of course, pitted already. Get him out the kitchen, says Louis, referring to SC. Yeah, I think he needs to be taken away from the cooking utensils, and maybe given a Play-Doh cooking set. That might be an idea. When he's had no practice around the Algarve, it's not exactly a recipe for success, pardon the pun. But Heine has already caught 2 seconds to the drivers in front of him. Gyro into the pits in the meantime, as someone's gone around. I think that's SC again in Sector 2. But Heine about to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. There it is, a 19.0 on the soft tyres, the wooden kid sets, says Louis. Yeah, that might be an idea. But Frisk Fruit still sticking with that Ferrari. He's still doing a brilliant job, but down to 9 or up to 9/10 that gap now, and now up to a second. So struggling now to stay with the Ferrari. I think Steph has started to push. You can see, yeah, the ERS has been used on that Ferrari, used about 50% more than the McLaren. But I don't think Frisk Fruit minds too much at this stage, because it's just all about staying relatively close to him in this first stint, and he'll give himself a great shot in the second stint, although the undercut is pretty big around here. So we'll see if that strategy works out for him, as MCL has gone round and he's got no front wing either to add insult to injury, and he's caused a safety car. So disaster for Frisk Fruit's strategy. He's going to have to come in and transition to a 2-stop here. I think a few other cars might have to do the same, but interestingly those top 3 have had to stay out. They haven't caught the safety car, caught them just as they'd gone past the line already. Where's Melvin? He's past the safety car, so I'm not sure why these two are staying behind it. Mr. Chris has finally gone in front of the safety car, but Hugo in a fantastic position here. I think Melvin and TNK will be fine, because they've managed to clear the safety car, but Mr. Chris might struggle here. He might get passed by Hugo in the pit lane. Steph Frisk Fruit's had to go onto the mediums, but not what he would have wanted to do. He's probably going to have to go to a 2-stop. Heine has been brought back into this race in the meantime. He's gone onto the hard tyres to the end of this race, probably a sensible decision. Hotline Blang and MCL, though, going onto the softs. So they're deliberately going for the 2-stop, and we'll see if that works out for them. Remember, we do have intel that there should be rain near the end of the race, so we'll see how near that turns out to be. Melvin comes into the pits from the lead of the race in the meantime. TNK just behind him as well, and Mr. Chris also peels in. So where's Hugo? He's coming around the final sector now. So we'll see if he can gain anything here. I think he might be a bit too far back, actually, because if he's got still got the safety car delta to deal with, and yeah, Mr. Chris already peeling out the pits, so he'll be well ahead of Hugo, who, of course, because he had to stop again, is not going to be ahead of any of them. But he will be right behind them on the hard tyres, and he's got a great shot at finishing P4 today, but he's still got to deal with this Red Bull. Heine down in P10, ready to make some moves, but I think he'll be feeling a little too much like Checo Perez for his liking these last few races that I've commentated on. Just having to make moves to save his race rather than being up there anyway, where he should be. So yeah, he'll feel a bit frustrated by that mistake he's made, but he's got plenty of time to get himself back into this race. We're only a third of the way through this Portuguese Grand Prix. MCL comes in again for a set of the hard tyres to the end this time. Will lose the place to Bumdy, but I think might come out ahead of MF Boom, who's just coming down at the pit straight now. Where's the Alpine? On the right-hand side of your screen. It's going to be very close, and in fact he has got him. MF Boom ahead of MCL. So the Alpine back down to P14 after breaking his front wing and bringing out a safety car. But I don't think he'll be too unhappy with that outcome. And still points very much on offer here for him. As SC P15 flop down in P16. This is a good opportunity for everyone who is in a early collision to get back into this race. No one's been lapped, so everyone should have the opportunity to catch back up, but sometimes it does come out a bit early, as Melvin has now caught the safety car, and for some reason Mr. Chris is overtaking TNK under the safety car, which I would say not what you want to be doing. Well, you just know that if someone had done that to Mr. Chris, he'd be throwing insults around in the Discord chat. But seems like everything's okay between those two. Hugo doing well in P4, good to see. Steph in P5 as well, the two Ferraris, 5 and 7, not doing too badly. And Frisfu up there in P6 in the McLaren. He's had a great race so far, but like I say, he's on those medium tyres, so he's locked into a 2-stop, and he's going to have to stop again before the end of this race, you would think. He'll be hoping for that rain to come sooner rather than later, so he doesn't have to. But we'll see if that materialises or not. His teammate, meanwhile, has just come into the pits for a fresh set of hard tyres, and he'll be hoping the safety car doesn't come in this lap, because that would kind of ruin his race, as it stands, if it wasn't ruined already. But they've just gone past the Sector 2 line, so I think we'll be fine. And it will stay out one more lap. So let's go all the way down the grid for a helmet review. So Melvin gets a 1 because he's got a... it's not the default helmet, but it is a pre-made Max Verstappen helmet. Nothing to do with Max Verstappen, just pre-made helmets get 1. TNK, I think said 7.5 for that one. Very sleek design. Mr. Chris, we've done his one before. That's a 9, Mr. Chris's helmet. Very nicely made. Hugo, I think same design. Yeah, same pattern, but different colours. I think his colours, they're certainly vibrant, but not as classy as Mr. Chris's. So I think a 6 for the clashing colours. Steph, Max Verstappen helmets, that's 1. Frisk Fruit. What have we got there? We've got blue and then black and silver with, is that sort of pinkish dots on the blue? That's a 5.5. But yeah, oh, that's very nice. It's the cyan with pink and black stripes on it. Wish I could see it from another angle, but yeah, 9 for that one. Very nice. Hotline Blang, very similar to Mr. Chris's, with some gold highlights there, and some green, neon green. I'll give him a 7 for that, maybe 7.5. Gyro, oh, very nice. Yeah, that can get an 8.5. Heiner, yeah, I think another 8.5. Jürgen, safety car in this lap, by the way. Jürgen looks pretty nice as well. I'll give that a 7.5. Bumdy's AI gets a 5 for that one, maybe 5.5. MCL, oh, that's lovely, but I think it is a Ferrari a pre-made helmet, so it has to be a 1, unfortunately, but it is nice. SC, I can't really see it because the Aston camera, but we'll do the rest later because we're about to get underway. Melvin, here we go in the Red Bull, round the final corner. He can choose when to punch it. Rain in 10 to 15 minutes, according to Dustin in the chat. Here comes Melvin round the final corner. When's he going to punch it? He's gone. And TNK has stayed with him, but not close enough. But Hugo is right with the Alpine of Mr. Chris, trying to make a move into turn 1. We know that the Alpine straight line speed isn't great on his setup, and he forces Hugo off the track there as he tries to go around the outside. But down into turn 2 they go, and Hugo just about surviving, sorry, turn 3 and through 4. I think Mr. Chris has stayed ahead for now, but We'll see if Hugo can mount any more moves in the next few corners. Steph stays in P5. Bartja under pressure from Hotline Blang in the Alfa Romeo. Heiner up to P9 in the meantime. He's gone up one place. There's carnage further back, 3 wide on the exit of turn 5. But it's Jürgen who gets ahead of those 3 up to P10. In the Williams, with Gyro and MCL trying to make moves as well, up to P12 already, but he wants to get into the points again as he's right behind this Alpha Tauri as it stands. Got plenty of drivers just behind them as well, also wanting those points finishes, as MCL again right behind this Alpha Tauri, practically pushing him through the latter part of Sector 2 and through into the final sector. Takes the inside line because he has no choice. And now tries to go all the way around the outside through the penultimate corner. He knows Gyro is slow on the exit, and here he goes trying to go around the outside of the final corner. It's going to be inside, but he gets hit from behind by the Aston Martin, I think, of SC. He's into the wall. He's going to be fuming. It might have been MF Boom, actually. It's a VSC. SC has been given a 5-second time penalty for a collision with MF Boom, so it could have been unrelated. But MCL, I think, got massively caught out there by Gyro's lack of speed through the final corner, and he wasn't expecting to have to do a switchback, but that's what happened, and it's another untimely pit stop for the Alpine driver, and that is a real shame. He's going to be down in 17th place. We've got green flags again though for those who haven't pitted, and Melvin still leads the Portuguese Grand Prix. TNK and Mr. Chris follow on behind. Dustin says that he doesn't know why they braked in the exit of that corner. I don't think they braked. I think they were just slow, Dustin, in the Alpha Tauri. Slower than you expected. But TNK coming through the final sector, trying to stay on board with Melvin this time. He didn't manage it in the first stint. It's going to be a real struggle to stay with that Red Bull, but we'll see if he can do it. It's MF Boom. Oh, okay, I'm not sure then what happened. Because I saw MCL got caught out by the speed. I think you were behind MCL, MF Boom, perhaps, and yeah, I think everyone got caught out and it was a chain reaction. VSC needs to last minimum a lap with a 10-second heads up. I would agree with that, as Hugo, I've been singing his praises all afternoon, and he's down to P11 now after a spin, unfortunately, on the, lap 17, and he's going to have to fight his way back through. He's going to be desperately disappointed with that, as now Hotline Blang is putting pressure on the Red Bull of Heiner, who's up to P7 on those hard tyres, looking to get himself back into the top 4 where he usually is. On another recovery drive, but he's 1.5 seconds back from Bartja, so he needs to close that gap down. First through on the mediums should be fairly fast in this stint, but of course he's going to have to pit again most likely before the end of this one. MCL getting himself a track limits penalty just to add insult to injury, already running at the back of the grid and hoping desperately for another safety car, which I wouldn't say is unlikely at this track, to be honest. Through the final couple of corners they go. No overtakes being made as of yet, but we could have something into turn 1. TNK just about staying with Melvin for now, and Mr. Chris staying with those top 2 as well, but we'll see if he can keep staying with them, as down to turn 1 goes Frisk through right behind the Ferrari, but not quite enough overspeed to get the move done. He brakes late right behind that Ferrari, just about gets it stopped, and now through turn 4 he goes, but he's too far back to make a move into turn 5. I think too tentative on the throttle through turn 4. And now turn 5 on the exit, very wide as well, just to compound that gap between himself and that Ferrari. And Bartja looking to take advantage now, as well as Heiner, who is in the DRS range of these 3. But easier said than done to make passes at the back of a DRS train on this circuit, even if you are in a far superior car. MF Boom is round again in Sector 1, unfortunately for him, as they all go through down towards the final sector. Got Jürgen right behind Hotline Blang in the meantime, who's now starting to struggle on those soft tyres already. The Williams driver looking to get himself into a strong P8 on track. He's got the ERS. I think he's going to make this move on the exit down towards turn 1. Can he do anything here? Goes to the outside line. He's going to have the DRS all the way down to turn 1. He's ran out of ERS though, and Hotline Blang will see that, so he could mount a challenge into turn 5. But move done for Jürgen up to P8 on track. But that time penalty could end up costing him towards the end. As we are seeing clouds in the sky now, so there are signs of rain in the sky. But we'll see when it materializes. Frisk Fruit still putting the pressure on Steph, but can't get himself past. And Heine putting the pressure on Bartia, who's trying to stay in DRS to defend from the Red Bull. But he's got no ERS left on that Ferrari, and that is easy pickings for a Red Bull when they see that flashing red light. Mr. Chris, meanwhile, has fallen out of the DRS range briefly of the top 2. We've got Hugo round again in the Mercedes. He is having a torrid time now, unfortunately, in the Mercedes. Such a shame after he started this race so strongly. Heine now on the exit of the penultimate corner, gets a decent exit, has the ERS to use, should be able to clear this Ferrari. No, he's not going to clear the Ferrari, he's going to spin, and TNK has overtaken Melvin for the lead in the same moment as the other Red Bull goes round in the final corner. He was using ERS while turning, and it's always a recipe for disaster, and he's down to P10 again, and the recovery drive begins once again for Heine. He's going to be so frustrated with how this race has transpired. It's been mistakes all of his own making, and he is going to be fighting his way through the pack again at this late stage in the Grand Prix. We're 2/3 of the way through now nearly, as TNK has taken the lead of this race. Melvin just behind him, as TNK looks for his first race win of the season, but he does have that 3-second time penalty to contend with for track limits. So all Melvin has to do is stay with him and keep it clean, and he will still take this race win. But I think Melvin isn't going to be after getting the race win from penalties. He's going to want it on track. You never know when people can get those sorts of penalties removed in the stewards. Through the final corner they go. Melvin is going to have the straight line speed here. He's going to have the DRS as well down to turn 1, and he's got the Red Bull down the inside of the Mercedes. This should be an easy pass back for the lead for the championship leader, and it is before the braking zone. Melvin back into P1 in this Portuguese Grand Prix. TNK tasted glory for one lap, and now back to normal order in this race as Frisk Fruit finally clears the Ferrari of Steph about 7 seconds down the road for P4. But those medium tyres are going to be really struggling towards the end. Maybe he doesn't have to do a 2-stop, but he's definitely going to have to be struggling big time in the last few laps if he does try and take those to the end. Heine recovering once again. We've got yellow flags further back. That's, I think, for the Aston Martin of SC once again, as Heine chases Ricciardo for P8, who's done a decent job in that Aston Martin, actually. He was way back in this Grand Prix before that safety car, and now he's up into the points-paying positions, doesn't have a penalty to his name, and is doing a decent job in that Aston. He can easily go to the end from here, but I think that rain will come before the end. If Mark is telling them on the radio and isn't lying, which he does do sometimes, the rain should come just before the end of this one, and I wonder how that may change things as TNK continues to put the championship leader under pressure here. He's still in the DRS range as they go through the first sector of the racetrack. He's going to have DRS down to turn 5, but gets a worse exit out of turn 4 than the Red Bull driver. Breaks at the 100-meter board, hits the apex better than Melvin, but Melvin will get the better drive. And Heine now, just to add insult to injury, he does get past Ricciardo, but collects himself a 3-second track limits penalty in doing so. as Ricardo chases him, tries to keep with him, rather. But I think that's going to be a futile exercise already out of the DRS Rangers. Bumdy comes into the pits for fresh medium tyres. So we have a solid top 10 now. Hotline Blank 14 seconds down from the points paying positions, with Flop in the Haas. Will try and take those hards to the end of this race, but Hotline Blank is going to chase him down quite quickly here. He's been pretty pacey in that Alfa Romeo today, and Flop has the time penalty of 3 seconds to his name, so Hotline has to catch 10 seconds in the next 10 and a half laps, which isn't actually that difficult on the much better tyres. And it's certainly within reach for Hotline Blank. I worded that wrong. It will be difficult, but it's within reach. It's not impossible for him to still take a point away from this one. But like I say, the rain is probably going to add an extra complication to this Grand Prix. Mr. Chris has fallen way out of range of those top two now, even of the track limits penalty of TNK. So just doesn't have the race pace in that Alpine today, it seems. So cannot challenge for the lead as TNK makes a big mistake out of the dreaded turn 8, it seems. Lost about half a second, and that could be enough to see him out of range of Melvin for the rest of this Grand Prix, unfortunately. 1.08, 1.1 seconds. He's trying desperately to get back in range. He's pushing hard. The detection point is coming up after this corner, but it's going to be on the entry to the final corner. It's 0.96, 0.98. I think he just about had it, but he used a lot of VRS to get it. But Melvin doesn't have too much either on his Red Bull. DRS is open for the Mercedes, so he's going to gain a few tenths back down towards turn 1, but he needs to not make a mistake like that again if he wants to stay in range, and that's going to be another track limits warning, which will only add to his woes. In terms of trying to catch Melvin, and that's going to be the nail in the coffin. A huge moment on the exit of turn 4. That Mercedes just isn't planted to the floor like the Red Bull is. And now 1.6 seconds, and that's going to be game over, at least for now, for any chance of a race win for TNK. Unless we have some late drama in this race. Frisk Fruit on the mediums. That sky is looking awfully grey now, I have to say, as the rain is threatening. SC gets himself another penalty, and that's for speeding in the pit lane because he has retired in the pits. And well, I wouldn't want to try his cooking if that is him. If that is us letting him cook in this Grand Prix, unfortunately. Frisk Fruit, though, has cleared those Ferraris by over a second, but he's still got to do another 9.5 laps in that McLaren on those 13-lap-old medium tyres. That is going to be some stint. If he can finish P4 here, that is driver of the day, without a doubt, because getting those mediums to the end from here and staying ahead of the Ferraris is going to be a mighty stint if he can do it. So we'll see what he can do. He's going to be reeled in so much in the last few laps, but he seems planted to the floor at the moment. He's doing a great job keeping those mediums in check, and the Ferraris, Steph and Bartia, just don't seem to have the pace for him at the moment. They'll reel him in towards the end, but we'll see if they can actually get past him, because Steph has no ERS left, and Frisk Fruit has well over 60% on the car. So as long as he keeps saving, he's going to have a great chance to stay ahead of these Ferraris, who are both fresh out of battery power. And Jürgen in a good spot too here in the Williams. He's P7, would be solid points even as it stands. He does have that time penalty to contend with, and he doesn't have any ERS left either as he gets a big slide out of turn 8. But he is... he's not in too bad a position here. He's some 8 seconds clear of Heine in the Red Bull, who is closing him down, but has a penalty of his own. So we'll have to overtake the Williams if he wants to take P7 from today. But P7 is not quite what he would have had in mind from this Grand Prix, I don't think. It's just been 2 major errors completely of his own doing. So he'll be frustrated with how this race has gone. He'll be frustrated with himself, I think, rather than anything else. But I think his goal now has to be just salvaging as many points as possible, and as a safety car becomes less and less likely as the laps tick down. No practice is well, crap. Kept making 4 or 5 mistakes every lap. Felt like F122 traction-wise. Wow, that really is bad. Says SC in the chat. Hang on, let me load my chat again. Anyway, when I DNF'd, it said 5 minutes till rain. So that's very interesting information. We've only got 7.5 laps left to go in this race. But those skies are looking grey. I think the rain is imminent. So we are going to have a late twist to this Grand Prix as the rain is going to come down. And the drivers have to decide what they're going to do. Are they going to try and hang it out to the end on the slicks? Is the rain going to come late enough for them to even have that option? Or are they going to come in for the inters and really send it? I think TNK's got to. He's got to take the risk if he wants to win this race. He's got to do opposite to Melvin. And I just saw a spit of rain. There it is. With 7 laps to go. I don't think there's going to be enough time, unless it's one of those where it just rains and it's not enough for the inters, because I see that plenty of times on this game, especially on Spa. I see it plenty of times. But I don't know about here in Portugal. It is definitely raining, so we'll see what the drivers are going to do here. There's a lot of big gaps between everyone. Not really any fights going on except MCL and MF Boom further back. Heine has not caught Jürgen at all, actually. He's not got any pace in that Red Bull at the moment. The Austria Classic of dry tyres with wet weather. Yeah, well, I once had a race in Austria where there was a guy who stayed out on hards for the entire race, hoping for the rain at the end. It came really, really late with just a few laps to go. And he was leading the race, but he came in. He was some 14 seconds down on everyone else when he came in, but he got me at the last corner of the last lap. It was an incredible race, but those are the sorts of things that can happen in these conditions. So we'll see what everyone thinks. Melvin and TNK have stayed out. It's clearly not intermediate weather yet, but if it keeps coming down, it's going to get that way soon, and the drivers are going to have a decision to make. 6 laps to go. Is anyone going to take the plunge? Fritz Voot still going on those medium tyres, still going very, very strong. 3.7 seconds, 3.8 to the Ferraris. What a stint he's having in that McLaren, but he's still, like everyone else, got a decision to make here. Steph has got himself a 3-second time penalty. Heine comes in. He's taking the gamble for the intermediate tyres. Why not? He's in P8. No prospect of doing any better. As a Red Bull driver, he wants better than P8. So into the pits he comes, taking the gamble, and well, we'll see if it works out for him. Down in P12 as he exits the pits, so it could be out of the points for Heine if he's got this wrong. As it stands, I think he has got it wrong. It does. It still looks very much like slick tyre weather out there, as Hotline Blank puts pressure on Hugo for that last remaining points paying position, and in fact the Alfa Romeo could get himself up to P9 here thanks to the track limits penalties of Flop and Hugo, as they all file through the middle sector now. MF Boom also coming in for the Inters, as is Gyro and MCL. All of the drivers at the back coming in and taking the risk, which is not really a surprise. Why not? Apart from MCL, who's come out on the soft tyres. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but that is what's happened, as Melvin has a 2-second gap to TNK, 6 seconds back to Mr. Chris from the Mercedes driver, and then 8 seconds down to Frisfruit, and another 5 seconds down to Steph, who's really lost out now on that McLaren. And there's not really anything that he can do about it at the moment. Frisfruit still ploughing on, very strong pace on those medium tyres, 18 laps old. What a performance he's putting in today. 4.5 laps left to go in this race. Meanwhile, is anyone else going to take the plunge for the Inters? Heine, is he catching Hotline Blank? That's the question. 6.2. He's got no ERS left. 6.1. I think the Inters, we're starting maybe to get to the cross crossover point. Still no puddles on the circuit. That's usually the primary indicator, but Heine's definitely catching Hotline Blang at a rate of knots. I don't think it's going to be enough to get himself far into the points, much less a podium, but it could gain him a position if he's got this right. It's still 10 seconds, though, to catch, to get to Hugo and then Ricciardo, where he was before. So maybe this could be a poor decision from Heine, but he does seem to be catching them, and the rain's only going to get worse. There's still 3.5 laps left to go. And yeah, the rain is definitely getting worse out there. It definitely looks pretty treacherous. So we've got an interesting ending to this Grand Prix in prospect. Melvin on lap 30 of 33 right now. He's coming through sector 2. Is he going to take the plunge? He's the race leader, so it's up to him. And if he makes the wrong decision, he could lose the race win. That is the burden of being the race leader. Whatever decision you make, you have no other indicator other than perhaps Heine telling him how good the Inters are, because Heine is catching him catching Hotline Blang so fast now. Sochi 21 intensified, says FC. Absolutely, it does have those vibes as Melvin comes around the final corner. Is he going to come in? Is he going to take the plunge, take the risk? You have to think if he comes in, TNK won't. He does come in. TNK also comes in with him, though. That's a surprise. I thought he'd stay out. Mr. Chris coming around the final corner. Is he going to stay out? Of course he is. He's going for the race win here. Is the Alpine driver? Has he got it right? That's the question. Melvin exits on the Inters, as does TNK. What about Frisfruit? He's in as well. He really wants this P4. The two Ferraris, well, Steph comes in. Barcia also comes in. It's going to be a double stack for Ferrari, which could be good news for Jürgen, but Jürgen stays out. He is going to go for it. 3 laps to go on those slick tyres for Mr. Chris and Jürgen. Are they going to be the only ones to do it? Hugo coming around the final couple of corners now. He's had a torrid time out there today. So he might well take the risk as well, but I don't think he's going to gain any positions for it, so he might as well come in, but doesn't. He stays out, goes for it on those mediums. Hotline Blang staying out as well, but here's Heine. He's already caught him, and the Red Bull driver, I think, has gotten this right. It's the Ferrari's just coming out right ahead of him. Barcia is going to be on cold tyres as well, but that doesn't matter as much in the rain. But Heine is going to try and get him and try and get himself up a couple more positions before the end here. 3 laps to make progress. He's got Hugo on the mediums ahead, who will surely clear before the end, so he could get himself to P7 with that gamble. So it would be 1 extra place for him, so it's worth the risk. But Jürgen here on the hards, Mr. Chris on the hards, he's got a 13-second gap, but like I said before, I've had a race exactly like this in Austria about a year ago, and it didn't work out for the people who stayed out, but it was very, very close. So we'll see how close it's going to be. 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Can Mr. Chris hold on? Melvin, 12.5 seconds back. Can he catch the Alpine? TNK as well, trying to make up that time behind his rival for this the last few races. He's finished second behind Melvin the last 2 Grand Prix. He's finished, 3 Grand Prix, and he will be hoping it isn't 4, but it could be 4 in terms of him finishing 3rd at this rate, because it's 10 seconds. It's not coming down as quickly as he wants. Heine gets himself another penalty, which is not good news for him. He's up to P8 now, but he's going to really struggle to gain any more positions from this one. Hotline Blang now gets himself a penalty as he comes into the pits, and he's lost that points paying position. I think Ricciardo's going to get a couple points out of this, because Hugo is 10 seconds up the road, but on struggling slick tyres. Mr. Chris, DRS disabled as Mr. Chris comes through the final sector. 8.5 seconds is the gap. Can he hold on? TNK 2 seconds behind Melvin. He's not got the race pace in the wet. Jürgen as well is going to come under huge pressure from Frisfruit behind, who's going to try and claim back his P4. He doesn't actually need to overtake him because of the track limits penalty, but here we go, the final lap of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Mr. Chris just comes over the line, 7 seconds ahead of Melvin, but Melvin on the intermediate tyres. Can he catch him before the end of this one? It's going to be so close as he comes through turn 1. Let's see how much time he gains through this corner. It's about half a second in one corner. Now turn 2, it's going to be even more because of the slow exit, but he gets a bad braking point and gains another 7/10, but is it going to be enough here? 5.5 seconds now. We're just going to ride on board with the Red Bull and see what happens. Through the middle sector they go. Mr. Chris still holding on, 4.5 seconds. It's coming down so fast, but is it fast enough for the championship leader to get his 6th win in a row? Can Mr. Chris do it? 4 seconds to catch, 3.6, 3.5 seconds, but only a few more corners left to go. But I think sector 3 is going to be a real struggle for Mr. Chris. Where's the Alpine? Melvin can see him now, just ahead, 2.5 seconds, just a couple of corners to go, one more sector. Can the Alpine driver hold on for his 2nd race win of the season? Melvin through the final couple of corners. It's 1.5 seconds. There's the Alpine just ahead. 1 corner to go. Can Mr. Chris hold on? I think it's going to be a final corner overtake for the win of this race. Here comes Melvin round the outside. Chris forces him off the track, and can he do it? Yes, he can. He holds on for the win. Melvin finishes P2, but he will not be happy with that defense at the end from Mr. Chris. I think we're going to see some stewards inquiries over that one. TNK finishes P3. Frisfruit did manage to get Jürgen and finishes a brilliant P4. He's my driver of the day today. What a brilliant performance from the McLaren driver. Jürgen finishes a spirited P6 after staying out in the hards as well. He made some gains too. It was definitely the right decision to stay out on the slick tyres. Those who stayed out gained a lot more than those who pitted in general. Bartias finishes P7, Heine a distant P8 in the end, a disastrous race for him. Ricciardo in P9, Hugo 10th. It's not going to be a Red Bull party today. They'll have to wait until next week to wrap up the Drivers' Championship, but Hugo did manage to get that final point in the top 10, with Flop finishing P11, Hotline Blang in P12, and then MCL is going to finish in P14, I think, as Gyro should get him in these last couple of corners. Here comes the AlphaTauri driver, big slide from the Alpine just ahead. Can Gyro get him in the last corner, just like in those top 2 positions? Here they go, round the final corner to the line. I think MCL's just about held on. Yes, he has, for P13. But what an incredible race here in Portugal. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you did too in the chat. Crazy final lap, absolutely right, Louis. Mr. Chris takes the first place trophy, but I do wonder if in the stewards we'll have some interesting discussions over that final corner, because it's I don't know how happy Melvin will be like that. He wants that 6th win in a row. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Louis, but we'll see what the stewards think. Mr. Chris takes the win in 48 minutes, just less than half a tenth ahead of Melvin at the line. TNK finishes in P3 in the end at his home Grand Prix. He'll be gutted that he didn't hold on to that. If he'd stayed out, he might well have won it. Frisfruit finishes in P4 with a fantastic performance, my driver of the day today. Steph in P5 with Jürgen down in 6th in the Williams, but gained from staying out as well, made the right choice. Bartia in P7, Heine P8, Ricciardo and Hugo 9th and 10th, with then Flop, Hotline Blang, MCL, Gyro, MF Boom and Bumdee's AI being the last of the finishers, and then SC and Hellfire not finishing the race. So, thank you all ever so much for watching today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. on my channel. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I believe DLR is taking a break of 1 week after this Grand Prix, so there'll be no race next week. But after that, I will not. I will no longer be, unfortunately, the regular commentator here for DLR, as I've had some life changes happen over the last week, to put it mildly. Nothing bad, everything good, but it does mean I have less free time for F1. So unfortunately, I have to step back from DLR and sort of cut some of my responsibilities over the course of a week. So I am sorry to not be the regular commentator here from now on, but when I have a free night on a Thursday, when the time is right, I'm perfectly happy to still cameo for the league as a commentator whenever I'm able to, and if you'll still have me. But I will definitely stick around and keep an eye on how the championship is going, because, like I said to the admins, I think you've got a great little realistic league going here, with you know, a lot of good stuff going. So yeah, keep it up, guys. It's a great little league you've got here. So and I would love to stick around for when I can give you guys a commentary. Maybe I can come in for the last race of the season and give you some good race highlights, but we'll see. I'm not sure yet. But anyways, thank you all for supporting me so much while I've been here at DLR. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you all ever so much for watching my streams and for watching DLR. But I don't know who's going to take my place in a couple of weeks' time. But I'm sure the announcements will be given in due course. So thank you all so much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your week, and goodbye. And yes, I will still be doing APP, don't worry.